How do you become involved in the armed service? I joined with my buddy. I graduated from Sparta High School in 1951. We had seen the movie, I think, John Wayne and Sansa Iwo Jima. Sergeant Stryker and I was all pumped up. I was going to be a Marine. Talked to my buddy, he said, yeah, let's go. My father would not sign for me when I was 17. He said, no, he says, you're going to go in there and think, boy, my father let me do this. So he made me wait until I was 18. I could join myself. Then I got just me to blame, not him, nobody else. So I waited until I was 18 and I joined. This was right after the Second World War. I was 9 years old when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. I lived in Sparta, lived there, born, raised there. And when that happened, I couldn't understand why within a month, out of 2,500 people that was there at that time, everybody from 16 to 36 was gone. There was nothing but kids, elderly gentlemen, and women. And I couldn't understand that at age 9. Well, I found out. And when you lived through the Second World War, that was 5 years, you became patriotic where it was automatic. When the Korean War came along in 1950, it was the thing to do. I think about 60% of my class, the men and some women, joined the service. It was automatic. Your country was in dire need and you just did it. I went into the Marine Corps and I went to boot camp at San Diego. I was going to be a Hollywood Marine. I heard about the other place down there, that sand-infested place in South Carolina, and I didn't want to go there, so I went to Hollywood. Ha! Boot camp was rather rough. I went in at 180 pound right off the farm. I thought, pretty well in condition. I played football. But 8 weeks later, when I come out of the Marine boot camp, I had dropped 30 pounds. He called me fatty. I couldn't understand that, my DI. My buddy, Lyle Bloom, went with me. He was 130 pounds. He came out 170. He gained weight. I guess he got mine. I don't know. But when I left boot camp after 8 weeks, I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. That's where they send you. And no matter what you write down, what you want to be, they'll let you know what you're going to be. They put me 0311 infantryman. I was a rifleman. And I trained in North Carolina as a rifleman and a paramarine, paratrooper. I didn't much like that. Just like they said, jumping out of a very safe plane, that's pretty ridiculous. So I ended up on the Korean draft. I got shipped home for 9 days. Then I had to report to California, Camp Pendleton, for advanced infantry training. That means you run the mountains day and night. But it does get you in condition for Korea. So after 8 weeks of that, I boarded ship. There was a plaque on the ship. The General Collins was the name of it. It's a troop transport, and it said on that plaque, capacity 1,900. But funny, there was 3,500 of us on there. You ate twice a day. I ate at 11 in the morning and 11 at night. Everybody ate twice a day, that's it. And you sort of milled around, kept out of everybody's way that you could. It took us 16 days to sail across to Kobe, Japan. We lived at Kobe, Japan, put our sea bags, our personal items, in storage, reboarded the ship the next day, ended up in Ashcom City. I lived right here just south of Incheon. At the time that I got there in '52, we were north of the MGM, north of 38th parallel. There was combat going on, and believe me, combat is not like it shows in the movies. That's Hollywood stuff. I even went over there with a little anticipation, a little excited. Oh boy, I'm going in there and I'm going to be a John Wayne. And whew, one day in combat, you learn the truth. If you can do it peaceful, do it. I was joined Howe Company. That's Horrible Hog, they called us. The General Berger came back and said that after our first conflict with the Chinese at a place called Diegues, we had 3 outposts, Vegas, Reno, and Carson. And we got assaulted by 3,500 Chinese, hit 11 of us. And we lost the hill, but retook it. And after that, General Berger come to our company and says, you look like hogs, you smell like hogs, and you live like hogs, but online you're the best guys, best fighting people I got in the division. So we was named Horrible Hog, Howe 3-5. And I was there for 15 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. After Vegas, they pulled us back, and we had 27 dead and 95 wounded. So we had to have new replacements. They put us on a ship in Ashcombe City here, a PA-52 attack transport. Our whole battalion, 10,000 men went on there. Sailed north 3 days and had an amphibious landing at Tok Chok To, behind the enemy lines. And believe me, that is not like Hollywood either. I've got some film that shows not only the Incheon landing, but some of it is mixed in with the Tok Chok To landing. And I'm the only one that can look and know where I was. Yeah, could you sort of show it? Here's a little video of some of it Incheon, 50 to 53. There we are. And believe me, them is live shells. This is the Incheon landing. They're going over the wall. This is some of the North Korean artillery, prisoners, and the big guy, General MacArthur. This is some of the people that we got involved with. The first thing they did was send over a police force. They figured it was, that's what they called it, a police force. But this man says, no, we're going to stop communism at the 38th parallel. This is landing at Busan. There we are. That artillery company there was called the Triple Nickel, 555. That was an army that supported us. That's a cruiser and a heavy, the Mighty Mo, the battleship, supported us 18 miles inland with the 16 inchers. There they're going over the side at Incheon. But this is the same way the amphibious landing was at Tok Chok To. This is the winter time, 52. It got 30 below zero. And there you are. This is what you got on. This is the way you sleep. I didn't see any Hollywood show this. And I don't think that's me, but that's the way we did it. Just to keep warm. This is some of the people, there's our chaplain, Flea Roberts from Kokomo. My daughter put these together. McDermott. It's Roberts again. I was happy there. I had chow. They finally give me some chow, which is food. That was our church. James Love, Corporal Love, their squad leader. There we're ready to go back. See, we got bandoliers of ammo, got our flak jackets on, ready to go back into combat. This is some of the pictures of the Korean Memorial in Washington, D.C. That is the faces of the statues. They're 7 feet high. And there's 17 of them. Thank you. That's it. Now, when I came back, I was an MP at Norfolk, Virginia. And when you come back, we was on board ship, and it took us another 16 days to come back. And they announced over the PA in the ship that we was going to see land at 5 in the morning. And there was 1,900 of us. There was 3,500 of us went over. 1,900 came back, so we lost quite a few. In 3 years in Korea combat, there was 53,700 lost. 53,000. We're talking 17, 18-year-old young men. In Korea, or Vietnam, they lost 58,000 in 10 years. Then you wonder why the Korean War is known as the Forgotten War. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, everybody on the ship, 1,900 of us, was on the bow of the ship. We pretty near sunk the ship. We all got up in front. We wanted to see the United States again. And when we seen the Golden Gate, we lit at Treasure Island when we came back. And when we seen the Golden Gate, hardened combat Marines and Army was crying. In fact, I found myself just to see the United States again. So respect this land. It's fantastic. It's nothing like these other lands. Until you get to another land. When you got to Korea, when I got to Korea, I couldn't believe the filth and the money exchange was 6,000 to 1. For $1 American, 6,000 won. You could take $10 American and buy a whole town. 6,000 to 1. When I left, a year later, it was 600 to 1. Now, it's the same exchange as the yen, the Japanese. Yen and the won is the same. I think it's 360, 320, something like that. But we've Americanized South Korea. We helped them out. We built, and we got their economy back online. You see in the movies, they still, on TV, they still have a demilitarized zone. Howe Company developed the crossing station 16 Able. That was ours. We made that. We was there when the ceasefire, which is the 27th of July, at 1000 hours. And we pulled back 4,000 meters, dug in, made the demilitarized zone. That's still there today. That's the trouble with the Korean War. It's still not over. Still not over. And when you're in a foreign country, we pretty near 90% of the company came down with malaria. 90%. And I myself also had hepatitis and jaundice. So I'm sort of a lousy blood, I guess. But a lot of us also got sick, and you don't know what it is. Some of the gentlemen, we had a couple of them get sick, and they never did find out what it was. But, so respect your, especially Second World War people. Them veterans are just fantastic. We weren't bad, but they were fantastic. Now, I've got on your desk, pick them out, turn them over, and what do we got? If you're okay, that means you lost some friends, you saw a lot of death, and you went home with no wounds. Who's got KIA? There's the ones. You never know. You never know day by day. One round, bang. The man's here, bang, he's gone. And he's good buddies. Who's wounded in action? Yeah. See, look at the wounds. Anybody lose legs, arms? Yeah. Is there MIA? We got a couple of them that was snapped up by the enemy. They was exchanged at Panmunjom, but they was taken. Now, some of the MIAs that right today, between Korea, Second World War, they said there's so many missing yet. Some of these people, and I dare say most of them, if an artillery shell comes in, we've had people would be there and the artillery shell hit and there's nothing left of them. There is nothing. There's maybe a scrap of meat laying someplace, but there's nothing left. But they're considered MIA. So when you hear the MIAs like in Korea that I know about, a lot of them just was gone. We had several of them. They was there 1 minute out there and an artillery shell hit, and there's nothing left. One we found a shoe, one a left hand, that's all. So the MIAs are not a lot of times, like the media says, they're in Russia. A lot of them aren't in Russia. A lot of them has been disintegrated. That's how well we perfected some of the artillery. And if you can do anything by peaceful means, do it. Please do it. This is my daughter made this. I'll pass this around. This is some of the medals that I got, and the only reason you get medals is a lot of times you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. We had a General Berger came up to me and asked me about a medal, and I told him I'd rather have a Hamburg. I haven't had a hamburger in a year over there. Just a hamburger. There's some of the simplest things you miss because the situation you're at. We ate sea ration. They come in a can. And this was one of the most important things we had over there. Well, besides your weapon. This is a P-51 can opener that came with sea ration. And believe me, everybody took these, really held these to their heart. This was really something, to open them cans. The sea ration came, they got a heavy, which is like, well, like me, I always got pork and beans. But they also had hamburgers, sausages, and different kinds of food, but I always got the beans. Anyway, and then the light, they had another can of light that had the crackers, had the TP, toilet paper, had 4 cigarettes, had candy. There again, a lot of the guys got the chocolate. I got the Chuckles, the 5 flavored Chuckles. That's another thing. I was real lucky between the beans and the Chuckles. We also had small cans of fruit cocktail, peaches, pears, and some fruit I don't know where it came from. It must have been from the South Sea Island because I had no idea what kind of fruit it was. But that's also the same way with the meat. Some of the hamburgers, you don't know what they came from. You just didn't say, get up. They might leave you. Now, the water, we had Listerine bags, which was purified. It tasted like Mercurochrome, but it was wet and it kept you going. When I got back, I went to Norfolk, Virginia as an MP. And I got back as a sergeant. I went in as a private, come out as a sergeant. I got out of the Marine Corps and I went into the Army. And I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. I was there 11 years. 63 they wanted to take, because I made Master Sergeant, they wanted to take and send me to a place called Vietnam as a military advisor for the French. And I had had enough of the Orient, so I got out. And I think I'm glad I did. I had 5 children. I got 14 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. When we have, like, Christmas at our house, I want to go to Motel 6. It is really filled. Now, is there any questions? Yes. I got the Purple Heart for getting wounded. They blew out my eardrums. I may be the only person you know of that got a piece of his hip in his head. They take tissue off the hip and graft over the eardrums. And this one's still got a hole in it. I look at the mouth a lot because I couldn't hear. And I say, huh, a lot. I hope you don't mind. but I also got a piece in the neck and across my arms. I had a flak jacket on, and it was an artillery shell that hit. And I was all black and blue. They put me on a chopper. I didn't go to a MASH unit. They were filled. They took me back to the hospital ship Havens. They stitched me up, cut my bandages, sent me back online in 3 days. As long as you was walking and you was halfway coherent. Yes. Yes, California. Pardon? Was you really? Off Highway 101. I guess there was a sign on me. I don't know. They said, get him up on line. But like I say, war is not like they show in the movies. Yes.
What was your first reaction to the events on September 11th?
Oh, I couldn't hardly explain what these people did in our own nation. I wanted to go back, re-up, and go over there. But they killed so many civilians. That's what just gets me. I never dreamed the towers would collapse like they did, and I don't think anybody did. Well, they went from the top right on down. My goodness. And I was mixed emotions on the people that did this. Yes. Pardon? In Vietnam? No, that's why I got out. I had enough. I did mine. Yes?
If you could change anything about Vietnam besides being injured, what would it be?
I was in Korea.
Korea.
Yeah, Vietnam, Korea, whatever. What would it be that I could change? Well, if they could have solved it peacefully, would have been nice. But as far as the experience, I think the camaraderie that you get with your fellow soldiers, airmen, Navy, is something that you never forget. You get a camaraderie with your fellow service people that is you never get away from it. It is a wonderful feeling when I meet a person from Korea. I don't care if he's there in 1950 or at my time, where he was. It's instant friendship. Just like the Marine Corps. Marine Corps is the same way. And all this stuff between Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and all that stuff, that's strictly bar stuff. Because when it comes right down to it, in combat or overseas, you're all Americans. Yes.
How long ago did you retire?
About, that was, let's see, 4 years ago. And sometimes I wish I was still working. You get into a groove, 40 years of working, and all of a sudden there's nothing to do in the morning. I've been married 47 years to a wonderful woman, and she wishes I was working too. A lot of mornings she said, go do something. But we go to the mall a lot. But I'm active in trap shooting. I do a lot of trap shooting. And VFW in Howard City. We do quite a bit of stuff for veterans. Yes.
What was your opinion on war before you went and after?
Of the war, I'm glad we finished it. I'm glad we had a ceasefire. Before, I agreed with the nation. I guess I was one of the sheep that felt the communists should not come south. I didn't want them to get any more land either. But when I got there, and I did my job, just what I was supposed to do. But I'm glad we stopped it at the 30th parallel. This is still free, like it was before. So we accomplished our mission, I figured. No. Just a hard way to do it. Oh? Oh. Where do you go to?
Pardon me?
Where do you go to?
Well, we used to take a group of students every year to Washington, D.C. for
Oh,
day.
oh,
And that trip
fantastic.
was canceled because of September 11th this year.
Oh.
Because there were not enough numbers. So we are doing a different trip. We're going all along the East Coast for 7 days.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, fantastic. Did any of you see the Vietnam Memorial? Did you? Isn't that something? Did you happen to see the Korean? With the big boys? I was really awed by the detail that they had in those. It was just amazing. But the Vietnam Wall was just, it's something that when you walk in there, just respect all these men. In fact, my babysitters, we found his name on there. There's several people that I knew from school that is on the wall. We found them. It's like going into the Lincoln Memorial. You walk through the big pillars, and right away, nobody talks. It's a whisper. From respect. Same way with the Vietnam Wall. Yeah. That is amazing. Yes, sir.
What things about the war did you like and what things did you dislike?
About the war, I think the main thing about the war that there wasn't much that I did like, only that we did hold them. And dislike combat is something else. I don't think you'd say you dislike it, but you don't want to do it again. Unless you have to. If I had to again, I'd go in a second. Of course, I couldn't move like I used to, and I'm a bigger target. Yeah.
Because of September 11th, do you have more respect for firefighters?
Very much so. Very much so. Of course, a lot of my friends is old firefighters, so I've known a lot of, like Bill Rogers from Sparta. He was a fire chief for years, and I've known the guys. But you're right. More people now respect them more. Yes, sir. Pardon? Oh, yes. Was I in the Marine Corps? Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. How long were you in the Marine Corps for?
For about 6 years.
How many different bases did you go to?
Now, let's see. I went to boot camp in MCRD, San Diego. Went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Back to Camp Pendleton, California. Out to Kent, Tent Camp 2 that's out towards, well, it's outside of Camp Pendleton. It's like 29 pounds. And I went to Norfolk. When I come back, I was an MP at Norfolk. And the Mighty Mo was there, Carrier was there, the Forrestal was built on the other side on Portsmouth. And I seen that when it was first launched. But we had a small detachment of Marine MPs at Norfolk, and at that time they had Naval Air at Norfolk. And we seen a lot of sailors. Yes?
How long did you serve?
11 years. Well, that's Marine and Army. I was in 11 years. Sir?
You shot the auto rifle?
The Grand M1. Yes. I've shot a lot of weapons. I even went on patrol. I thought we could get a submachine gun, 45, like the gangsters used to have. We had the drum type and the clip. And I thought, boy, I'm going to really throw out some lead. They're terrible. They ride up and to the right, and half the time the springs are weak and they won't put the next shell out. You got to shake them to shoot them, and so I went back to the Grand M1. Yes.
Was it hard to adapt to the environment?
Well, you do what you got to do. I mean, like 30 below zero. Look what we did. I used to look for a snowbank so I could scrape out and slide underneath and get out of the wind. And you wake up after a few hours of sleep, and the hair that they have around your parka, they have fur around there, that's all ice. And you hadn't better have a runny nose or you got sickles, you know, at 30 below. And we had a couple people that got frostbite. One person, he was sort of a jokester. He took off his shoe and his little toe was black, and he just broke it off. Yeah, broke his toe off. He said, hey, ho, ho, ho. The corpsman says, wait till you get feeling back. You think ho, ho, ho. So they shipped him out. That was before we got Mickey Mouse boots, they called them. You know, the big ones? When we first got those, you had to get a size 3 sizes bigger than you wore. So I got a 12. I wore a 9, 12. And the first patrol we went out, I bet the Chinese thought, my goodness, there's monsters, because some of those feet prints, you know, the tracks, they'd be enormous compared to their little feet, you know. Especially we had the guys that had 12, so they had bigger, my goodness, they was like that. But they saved our feet from frostbite. You have to keep your hygiene up no matter where you are. I carried 12 pair of socks in my pack. Now my fatigues weren't too clean, but my feet were good. I made sure I had my feet. Yes, ma'am. Pardon? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I can't hear. What? I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't hear. I have a hard time.
Did you fight with a lot of people who you went to high school with?
No. These are all strangers. My company was 90% Southerners. And after a year over there, I come back talking like this. And my father says, what happened to you? And I says, I was in South Korea. South, you know. And right now, my daughter is married a person from West Virginia. And every time her and I get together, right away here, I'm talking like this again. It just automatically comes out. But that's the way I talked with them. I think we only had 7 people out of 44 from the north in my company. All the rest was Pikeville, Kentucky, Jacksonville, Mississippi, Ponchatoula, Louisiana. Wonderful men. Wonderful men. We had the one, our platoon leader, he's from Oklahoma, James Love. Afro-American, one of the best men I've ever met in my life. There's not a person that wouldn't go to Billy Be Good and back following him. There's no discrimination in service, in combat. Yes?
What was the nation's feeling? I know there were very hard feelings about Vietnam during that conflict. Korea is not something that our students really hear much about. What was the nation's reaction to the conflict there?
It was pretty well the forgotten war. When I got home, they said, "Where you been?" What do you mean, where have I been? I've been being shot at. But it just was not in the papers, very little. The only thing, when we lit it at Treasure Island, San Francisco opened their arms to us. Any draft that came back, they did at San Francisco. But other than that, it was no big deal. Now, this was the United Nations. We had Turkish soldiers, we had Australian, we had British, Canadian, right with us. They was on both sides of us. They fought right along with us. The only trouble is the United States, it was like 100 to 1. You know, we furnished most of the people, most of the men. But it was a United Nations effort. I even met some Turkish, some Gherkins from India. They were smaller units, but I don't think none of them had more than a division at the most. But it was a United Nations conflict. Yes?
Was it hard to make friends?
No. No, because you're in the same boat. And if he can watch your back, then he's your friend. The Marine Corps goes with the buddy system. When you get there and go, you're assigned to another person, and no matter where he goes, you go. We're talking every place. The only trouble is if he volunteers for something, you're volunteered too. You go together all the time, buddies. And you get pretty close. And I lost a couple of them. Yes?
What would you say was the scariest battle you were in?
Scariest? Well, I was in several. Probably the Vegas, Reno, and Carson was the worst. We lost quite a few men. We lost pretty near half our company. But Esther and Tok Chok To, the amphibious landing, there was 250 in our company, and there was 96 left. And 83, I think, was wounded. So you lose a lot of people real quick. One round hit a LCVP, landing craft vehicle personnel. 44 men in there, one round, gone. You're talking 44 men plus 2 coxswains and a lookout, a Navy. So 47 guys gone. See, you can't explain. It's hard to explain. Yes?
How old were you when you went first to Korea?
I was 18. I turned 19 in Korea. Yes?
When you were, like, before you were sent to Korea,
Mm-hmm.
did you ever dream of how it would be and, like, have a nightmare about it? But then when you get there, it's worse than you thought?
No, not before. Before I thought it was Hollywood stuff. The good boys never get hurt or anything. But when I got there, it's not that way at all. It's not who you are or where you are, or not so much who you are, but where you are. Because when you leave there, you have guilt feelings. How did I make it and they didn't? You know, we got a Gary Andrews from Grand Rapids that got killed on Esther, the 25th of July, 53. He's buried out here, and it took me 40 years to go out there to see his grave because I didn't want to believe in my mind that he is gone. You have a lot of people wounded, and they take them away from the company. You don't know what happened, if they made it or if they didn't. mentally you don't want to say they didn't make it. Then you find out later that they didn't make it. Yes, sir.
If you were assigned somebody, like you're partners with, if they died, what would you do? Get another partner?
You get another, yes. And after 3, they sort of looked at me funny. Whoa, 3 partners? You know.
How many of the gentlemen that served with you are you still in contact with?
4. I still see 4. I've lost 12 out of my company that we was in contact with the last 10 years. 12 of them's passed on with cancer or whatever, heart attacks and stuff. But there's still 4 from my, one of them's down here in Nashville, Michigan, and he's in pretty bad shape. Rezeki, Bill Rezeki. Yes.
How often do you see them?
As much as I can. With him, I can go down once a month and see him. He's pretty near bedridden. And we're going down next month to Mississippi and Georgia to see my other 2 buddies. So I'll be talking like this again. Yes. Yes.
You said that you were a member of the American Legion,
Yes.
and like when did you become a member of the American Legion?
Probably, well, I've been member pretty near 35 years. And the VFW in Howard City. The American Legion is anybody that was in the service. VFW is Veterans of Foreign Wars. It's not, I don't know why there's such a difference. Some's been in combat, some haven't, but the ones in the American Legion was the ones that was getting the ammo and everything and sending them to the guys that needed it. So I don't distinct, no difference between the 2. They're still a veteran, even if you're in the post office, in the military. You still went through the training, through the boot camp, through the advanced training. You know, everybody has that. So to me, they're pretty well equal.
We have time for one more question, if somebody has a question.
Yes.
When you had one of your buddies pass on, was it hard for you to adjust to a new one?
Oh, yes. Yes. When you get when you lose a buddy, you cry a lot, but a lot of times it's, I hate to say it, but it's, sure, you feel bad that he's gone, but you're just glad it's not you. You don't like to admit that, but that's what goes through your mind, thank goodness. And the new person, it's hard to have him take over the same. You got to adjust again, different personality.
Thank you very much.
Okay.